out. This morning, I saw an article on Facebook, and I just had to talk about it. Um, it's crazy, man. I'll post a link to it in the description box so that you can watch it for yourself. But it features a black girl. She's a teenager. She's 16 years old. She was on the Dr. Phil show, and she was basically talking about how she identifies as white and how she basically hates black people. And I'm going to just read a couple of quotes from her interview, and then I'm going to provide my commentary. Shout out to the people that are tuning in. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. If you can hear me okay, throw up those ones. I would appreciate it. So this is a brown skinned African American girl. She's not, biracial or anything like that. And she looks like any other black girl. There's no ambiguity. It's clear that she's black, that she's African American. But yet this girl says that she's white. She said that I'm a Caucasian because her hair is naturally straight. She said that her hair is not nappy and she doesn't need a weave, and for that reason, she's not black. And then she went on to talk about how she doesn't have a giant. Um, there may be a couple of interruptions, so I hope you all are able to hear me okay. Um, so she went on to say that when it comes to black people, I think they're all ugly. I have nothing in common with them because I'm white. And then this girl went on to say that Kim Kardashian is a wonderful role model. And then she talked about how she's on a different level. She said black people are down here and she's up here. She talked about how black people think in a criminal way. She talked about how black people are dangerous. And she said that she knows that she's white. She said that she will never be like any of those Negroes. She said that I have a perfect life and I'm perfect. So she equates whiteness with perfection based on her comments. So I want to look through your comments before I go a little bit further. Shout out to Bonafide 1970. Shout out to Evan King. Shout out to Pat. Yeah, I was wondering about that, Pat. Let me I'm gonna get to you in a second. Shout out to Water Sniper. Yeah, so yeah, colorism is real. Hate is real. Self hatred is real, and we're gonna get into that in a second. So Pat said that she watched that episode, and she said that the mother is a bedwench and her real father isn't present. And she went on to say, clearly she had a racist stepfather who groomed her. Yeah, that's one thing that I was wondering about. Like, I didn't watch the whole episode. I just watched a clip that was included in the article that will be in the description box. But he suggested that somebody else was her. I guess it was a white man, standing like in the particular. But that was, and mother basically said, "I told you that that man's not your father." Basically telling her that she's not white and stuff, that she has another father. So I want to get into this. I want to talk about like the self-hatred issue, where it comes from. And this is a question that Brother Malcolm X asked many years ago. He said, "Who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate your skin, hate your African features, your nose, your lip texture? Who taught you that?" And that's a profound question, man. It's a simple question. You know, we didn't come from Africa with self hatred. When we were on the continent of Africa before that white man brought us to America, we didn't hate the color of our skin. We didn't hate our natural hair texture. We didn't hate our full lips and our wide noses. We didn't hate those things. Somebody taught us to hate those things. The white man taught us to hate them, ourselves. He taught us to hate our color, to hate our African features, to hate our hair, to hate Africa. That's what he taught us. He taught us that we were from a race of savages. That's what he taught us. He gave us the minstrel image of the black man. He's the one that gave us the buck dancing minstrel image that taught us to hate our dark skin, to hate our natural hair, to hate who we. White man gave us that. He's the one that divided us up based on our skin color, treated some different from others, gave lighter skinned black people certain privileges and denied, darker skinned black people certain privileges, to divide and conquer black people. The white man taught us that, and we can never forget that. I think that too often what happens is we go back and forth with each other, in a men versus women type of debate, or light skin versus dark skin debate, not realizing that it was the damn white man that taught us to hate ourselves, man. At the end of the day, that's the person who taught us to hate ourselves, with his media, with his education, the educational system that taught us that we were a race of savages, that we accomplished nothing, that we built nothing, that we are nothing, that the only thing we were was slaves. In their mind, our history began with slavery, and that we, they project this idea that we come from the dark continent, a continent absent of civilization, when the fact of the matter is we are the founders of civilization. But they programmed us to hate ourselves. And the programming begins young. It begins when the baby comes out of the womb. That's how comprehensive it is. That's how thorough it is. That's how pervasive it is. How else can you explain children, that aren't even that old, only a few years old, already taught to hate themselves? We saw it in the 1950s when they did that Dow test that I cite over and over again. They gave the black children a black doll and a white doll. They said, which doll is the pretty doll? They pointed to the white doll. Which doll is the smart doll? They pointed to the white doll. Which doll is the good doll? And they pointed to the white doll, because even at that very young age, they were taught to hate themselves at that young age. And sadly, somebody reenacted that test very recently, like in the last few years, and it had the same result. It produced the same result. All these years after segregation, all these years after slavery and Jim Crow and all that stuff, and black people are still programmed to hate themselves, to hate who they are, to hate their black skin, to hate their African features, all these years later. And it's just a shame, man. It's a shame that we still had this self-hating mentality. And this self-hatred, it's not only projected through the educational system and, through the media. It's also projected in our own households and, what we put our children around, man. And it's just so unfortunate. So unfortunate, man. So, a lot of the things that she talked about was like equating blackness with criminality and being ghetto. And we know where that comes from, this idea that blackness is criminal. It's a stereotype that's been with us a long time. That stereotype goes way back to Birth of a Nation. Shortly after African Americans gained freedom and stuff like that, in order to control black people, in order to dominate black people, they had to project black people as criminals. So in that Birth of a Nation film, they demand as some crazed maniac that lusted after white women. That's what they did. To make people fear the black man. They made the black man appear to be dangerous. And we see that all these years after Birth of a Nation, that stereotype of the black man as a criminal continues today. So it's no wonder that this young woman equates blackness with criminality. It's no wonder. It's no wonder when you have hip hop music and you have these music videos and you have these movies that depict black men as thugs, as gangsters, as drug dealers, as killers, as thieves, and all other kinds of criminals, pimps. That image is glamorized in the black community. That image is celebrated through a media that promotes that image. So it's no wonder that so many people equate blackness with criminality. And by doing that, it causes the larger society to be desensitized when it comes to the plight of black people. So when a black man is killed by these police, all they have to do is paint him as a thug and it becomes justified. You know, they put out this negative image of black people, thereby devaluing black lives, thereby making it easy for these police to kill black people, easy for these police to get off when they view black people as criminals because of this constant programming. Just like during Nazi Germany, you know, they programmed people to devalue Jews, to view Jews as pests, like rats or roaches or some other kind of pests. That's what they would put out there. So when the Jews were rounded up and put in the ovens and gassed and all that kind of stuff, the larger society had no sympathy for them because they had become desensitized. And that is what is going on in society. You know, people are being desensitized to the plight of black people because they promote this idea that blackness and criminality are one and the same. And sadly, some of our own people have embraced that lie. They've embraced that myth. And then this whole idea of ghetto attitudes and, you know, ghetto way of speaking and all that kind of stuff. You know, I want to address that. You know, first of all, being black and being ghetto are not, you know, one and the same. I mean, many people who are black obviously are educated. You know, they obviously can speak proper so-called English. You know, they can do all that. They're not quote unquote ghetto. They do not have those ghetto characteristics or whatever. So this idea that all black people or most black people are ghetto is ridiculous. And then in response to that, I'll just say this as well. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with black people having their own identity. You know, slang is a way by which black people create their own instead of allowing the dominant society to tell them how to speak or how to act. You know, quote unquote ghetto culture is something that's unique. It's something that is an aspect of the black community, but it's not, you know, the totality of the black community. It's nothing wrong with black people creating their own slang or creating their own ways of dress, creating their own customs. I mean, this damn white man robbed us of everything, man. Stripped us of our traditional African religions, stripped us of our traditional African languages, stripped us of our traditional customs, you know, stripped us. And despite him stripping us of our traditions, you know, we still have aspects of our tradition. Yeah, so you all have to bear with me. The internet connection is not so. Yeah, it's, you know, what people have labeled as ghetto culture, in some ways, is an attempt to define ourselves, to create for ourselves. Even these names that people call ghetto and blah, 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 is an attempt for black people to create their own, whether people like it or not. You know, there's some black people that aren't worried about trying to fit in to this world. You know, they don't have any problem embracing their own identity or having their own identity. So, you know, I understand that there are some negative aspects of quote unquote ghetto culture or whatever, but there's also a uniqueness to it, a flavor to it, a style to it that all these other people try to imitate and emulate. So let's not be completely dismissive of quote unquote ghetto culture or whatever. So that's one thing that I wanted to say in response to this whole thing. And I think that, you know, this situation involving this self-hating, sunken place girl, it's just another like symptom of the problem of assimilationism, and extreme integration. It's like you are so thirsty in need of, acceptance and validation by this white man's world, that you are willing to just throw your own people under the bus. You're willing to completely negate who you are to such a degree that you feel the need to identify with white people and to identify as a white person. That's the ultimate result of the assimilationist mindset. And unfortunately, many times the children suffer in those situations, like this young girl who actually identifies with being white. I mean, from what I understand, lives in a predominantly white area, just based on how she talks and how she acts. And then her mother was either married to a white man or dating a white man or whatever. So I think that nurtures that sunken place mindset, that type of environment nurtures that kind of mindset. I mean, here you have a mother that's with a white guy. That in and of itself is telling you that this white man is better, that he's some, that and all that kind of stuff. And then moving, you have some of these people that have such an assimilationist mindset that they would rather, like Malcolm X said, they would rather pay twice the value of a home just to be around white people so that they can live in a white neighborhood, so that they can have their kids go to a white school and be surrounded with white people in a predominantly white environment. And then after putting your child in this predominantly white environment, you had a nerve to wonder why your child wants to be white, why your child is trying to act white and be white and all that kind of stuff. When you told that child through your actions that your validation, your acceptance is based on how white people view you. Your acceptance is based on your ability to fit in these white environments and your ability to acquire a white man. I mean, indirectly, in so many different ways, I'm sure that that mother basically taught this girl to identify with whiteness, to put a premium on whiteness. And I think that a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of our people's mindset has been so tainted that they actually view whiteness as perfection. And that's one of the words that this girl kept saying, kept saying, oh, my life is perfect, just like white people, basically, their lives is perfect. Because often that's the image that we see. We see these happy-go-lucky white people living in their prosperous, affluent neighborhoods, smiling, jogging down the street, walking their dogs, just living it up, while a lot of black people are struggling. So a lot of people want to identify with the ease. They want to identify with the prosperity. They want to identify. Yeah, so this keeps going in and out, so I'm gonna have to wrap it up soon. Hopefully, it's not too messed up in the quality. So y'all just have to bear with. I think, my whole point, the last point that I was trying to make is that, people like girl, and this girl basically had the nerve to say that Kim Kardashian is a role model. To me, that's insane. To me, that's crazy. I mean, to me, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I can understand somebody saying that she's a role model in terms of how she managed to make so much money and stuff like that. But aside from that, aside from being making all the fans, that's a woman who basically sold her soul for fame. This is a woman who is sleazy. This woman is trash. This is a woman who's basically slept with damn near the whole black Hollywood, all the men in Hollywood, all the football players. Everybody's had their turn with this woman. This is a woman who got famous by basically prostituting herself, putting herself in a sex tape. That's how that woman got on the map. And that's who you're gonna hold up as a role model? That's sick to me. That's crazy to me. But anyway, man, I just really just had to hop on here and share my thoughts about this. It's just so sad to see a young black girl, so deep deep inside of the sunken place, man. It's like we got to do better with the children, man. The mother, you know, the father, they all got to take some kind of responsibility for her mindset. So anyway, let me just see what y'all are saying before I close out. I want to thank y'all for tuning in, man. I'm sorry about the internet connection; it keeps breaking up. So Bonafide said, "How old is the girl?" She's 16. I see this. Pat already answered that. Shout out to BB. So BB asked if it was staged for rape. I can't. I wouldn't put it past them, man. I don't know if that's the case, but it's highly possible. So I wouldn't doubt that at all. It's very possible. Shout out to Ali Emmett. Shout out to Dope. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Yeah. So with that, I'm gonna say peace and blessings to each and every one of you.